Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 901, we're back from our holidays and we've got lots to talk about Microsoft's Build event, lots of AI stuff there, but there was some Windows stuff, we're talking about that, and some new features coming to Windows as well. We've got to talk about streaming, we're going to be talking a little bit EV and lots more, so let's get straight to Richard and Gary. Richard, good evening.
Good evening.
We're back after our week off.
Welcome back. Yes, how was your holiday?
It was very nice. Florence is a lovely place.
Yeah, lovely.
Yes, a bit delayed going out, about 4 hours delayed, but to get some money back, so that's not too bad. But I was very impressed with the train services in the Tuscany area. The train from the airport to Central Station and Pisa Station to Florence, no problems at all. So that all worked pretty well. And actually, the train came. It was a bit of a shock to the system. The train came when it said it was going to come, and left when it said it was going to come. And was on the platform it said it was going to be on, and arrived when it said it was going to arrive. It wasn't cancelled.
That's unheard of. Yes, obviously we in the UK, we're on the eve of the next rail strike, aren't we? So that there'll be no trains at all tomorrow in the UK.
Yeah, so it's so it was a very nice trip. Lovely place. Lots of very cultural things and museums.
Lovely.
And, lots of wine, as you do.
And hopefully some nice food and beverages.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Excellent. Well done. And you were kid free as well, I think, weren't you?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yes.
Living the dream, Ian. Living the dream.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of tech stuff, I did take these Samsung tags as well, which I do find pretty amazing that you can track your bag with using other people's phones. It's pretty clever that, and they do work. So. Yeah, I put one in my suitcase, and then you could sort of follow where your suitcase was as it was going around the airport, where I was sat doing nothing for 4 hours. So I don't think it was quite as interesting to my wife as it was to me. He said, "Look, our bags are over on that side of the airport now," but spotted by somebody else's phone. So I think that's the good part of it. It's using other people's phones, Samsung phones. The only downside of it, of course, is they only work with Samsung phones.
Yeah. And
I was going to take the Galaxy Note. But so I switched my SIM over from the Duo to the Note, but I didn't like using the single screen, and the battery life on my Note is gone pretty poor now. So I ended up going back to the Surface and taking the Note with me just so I could track her bags, and using it for that side of it really. But yeah, so that was quite good. And I did take my Surface Go with me as well for a bit. When I wanted to use a tablet, I really like the Surface Go. Actually, I've forgotten how much I like it for traveling. It's apart from the one downside is that the keyboard no longer works, which is a bug, I think, of software rather than a physical one. Because I've had it before. Sometimes if you let the battery go completely, go into the BIOS, and then the keyboard will start working again, and then it'll just stop, and then you have to repeat. But I've struggled to get it to do it this time. What it did take me though was a little portable keyboard like that. And so, but I really would like a new, because some areas on my the capacitive bit's not working properly as well. Everywhere, all over the touchscreen, it's got dead spots now. So I would like a new Surface Go, but that Surface Go 3 is still 500 quid, and I don't think they've replaced it, have they, for a while? I think it was last year or the year before.
Yeah, it's looking more and more underpowered, isn't it? As time goes by.
Yeah. So if I was going to get anything, I would have to wait, I think, till they announce a new one.
I assume we're going to have a Microsoft hardware event at some point soon where they'll do these things, because these things are getting quite. I mean, the fact there was nothing at Build, was there? So I presume that means we're going to get an event in the next few months where they'll detail these things. Well, I hope so, because they're all getting quite old now.
Yeah, the Surface Laptop Studio that was announced last year. That's probably okay. The Surface Pro 9 is fairly new, isn't it, as well? So that would be okay. The Surface Laptop Go is a couple of years old now, so that's probably due a refresh. The actual Surface Studio itself is really old now, isn't it? So that's definitely worth a refresh. And like I said, the Surface Go is definitely worth a refresh. I did notice that some of the type covers the Surface Go are sold out now. So you can get the premium ones, but the standard ones, the £99 ones, are out of stock now. So perhaps that's a hint that they're running the stocks down, ready for a new device.
Could be. As I say, I've not got any insider information about if there's going to be a event soon, but just kind of feel there must be, because there was just nothing about this stuff at Build at all, which is not entirely surprising because it's obviously not a hardware event, but you think one must be coming up then, surely.
Yeah, I really hope so. So hopefully we'll hear something soon. I still fancy an ARM device Surface, but although you have your experience varied.
Exactly. What one hopes they'll build on the experience of of myself and other people who also got the ARM what's it called, the Microsoft Dev Kit or something, or whatever. Yeah. And yeah, it's been a bit unreliable, shall we say? So hopefully they'll learn from that and will take those lessons forward. Although one thing I hope they do carry forward is the fact it's got epic amounts of RAM and storage, which will be great.
Yeah. And actually, talking about that, wasn't there a bug this week in the Qualcomm drivers for the Surface Pro X which stopped the camera working?
Yes,
devices,
yes, I heard about that. Sadly, I haven't got a Pro X, so I can't comment from personal experience. But yes, but it's kind of, there is a constant drip of bugs with Windows. It seems, it's got to the point now where every update something breaks somewhere.
Yeah, and I think this is a driver. I think they're kind of all blaming each other a little bit, but that's what it was. It was around that. It was a camera driver or something like that. Yeah, so build was quite interesting. I was away and didn't have brilliant connection, or didn't really have the more likely.
I mean, it was interesting if you were into AI, I think. And again, it's a shame Gary's not here, because when you say AI, it's really, it's not intelligence per se. It's kind of very spicy autocomplete. I've heard someone call it, and it's not really doing any intelligence. It's just kind of it's another large language model, so it's kind of effectively doing, I mean, I guess jumped up autocomplete would be a word for you. Kind of query it and it will give you results back, but it's not really thinking in a way that's kind of like true intelligence. So but yes, a lot of AI at Build, so much stuff. Let's see, you've got Chat GPT. Bing is going to be default in Chat GPT. You've got all the stuff around Edge, which we're going to have a 365 Copilot. Microsoft 365 Copilot is going to have the plugins from OpenAI. So a lot of AI stuff.
And as if by magic, Gary arrives. You mentioned AI, and here he is.
Yep.
I'm not an artificial intelligence, I promise. I might be a co-pilot.
So
you can certainly have the drinking game on the word co-pilot at Build.
Yeah, AI and Copilot will basically be the two words that you do not want on your card, because you get drunk very quickly.
So the Windows Copilot that is supposed to be coming in June, what does that actually gain you?
Well, it's kind of it's like a personal assistant, isn't it? Really, you can kind of it's going to live on the taskbar. When you open it up, you can then you explain the text and apps and things that they're running. It's not out yet. It's going to go to test first and then be rolled out to more users. So it does smack a little bit of Cortana, or the dream of Cortana. So I'm not entirely. I mean, obviously it's not as. It's different. It's more natural language. But I mean, I can remember using Cortana, and talking to Cortana. So this seems to be kind of the next step. But Copilot does seem to be their buzzword. Everything's got Copilot now. Dynamics has got Copilot. Microsoft 365 has got Copilot. But it's really just an assistant. And again, I mean, I do tend to think of it as kind of. I hate using the word AI because it isn't intelligence. It's effectively a very clever auto-complete type thing running off, a large language library. I mean, what is interesting is the concept of plugins, which will allow you to connect your various Copilots to other bits and pieces in your if you're an enterprise and you may not be using all a platform that is connected by default. You could connect up your various apps via the code by this. So when your users query, use Copilot to ask questions and query things, it can look in more places than just what comes out of the box. So I defer to Gary from a developer standpoint, because it's a it's an interesting platform. It's just it felt like it dominated build, and it doesn't feel like it's that big really. And it's some of you think, have we got this already?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, someone described it as the new Clippy.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, very good.
Which I think it kind of is.
I mean,
it's a chatbot. I mean, let's face it. It's an advanced chatbot at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's a very advanced chatbot. I mean, it's generative AI, as they call it. I mean, I still hate the term AI because it's not artificial intelligence. It's not
exactly
able to think for itself. It's a large language model, generative machine learning, but it does have some interesting things, and certainly some of the stuff they were showing from the dev point of view could be really useful. I mean, the ability to generate unit tests on the fly for a developer is a real time saver. There's lots of time saving things on there, and they are very careful to sell it as a co-pilot, not as a replacing the developer. I mean, there's been some pretty good headlines in the last few weeks where ChatGPT has gone crazily wrong for certain people, especially if you happen to be an American attorney at law who on ChatGPT, and is now up against the bar because he's basically being accused of making up case law because basically ChatGPT made it up.
Well, again, didn't make it up, pulled it from sources that it had in its library. I think it's very important that we say these things aren't creating stuff. It's very important to make that distinction.
That's very true, Richard, and I get it, because it's a generative machine learning which actually bases which takes its content it finds elsewhere and then uses that to generate other content, and it basically merges things together. So it actually merged different bits of case law together. Came up with something. So
because I've seen
don't mess with lawyers. That's all I'd say.
Yeah, I've seen that with the chat. You can search for a technical solution, and it pulls from multiple sources, and it does say which one it's from. But yeah, it doesn't. I don't think it knows how to weight them or to say, well, this is solution A, this is a solution B, and they're not compatible or whatever. It just brings them together.
I'd also say when it pulls from multiple sources, particularly with coding, sometimes it can be quite tricky knowing where that code's come from. And you should also, I think anyone using these things as a coding assistant should be aware, one, if you ask it questions, that question could well have gone into the learning algorithm, which means that you could be very careful to if you're corporate, don't give it a snippet of code to look at that contains corporate or sensitive information like passwords or keys or things, because that could go into the library. If you copy and paste that into the question box, and of course what comes out, you need to be very careful in terms of if it's how that code is licensed, because Gary, I don't know if it's still the case, but I know certainly early versions was basically we yanking code from anywhere that was public on the internet, and you can get into quite a difficult legal minefield with that, because if there's no proper credit given, or the license of that code was originally under doesn't allow for that, you could have some problems, even though the argument would be it shouldn't be on the internet then. But you see what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's also, even when they are taking from open source, there's different types of open source licenses, and so corporates will accept certain licenses and not others, and it's a mess. It's an absolute mess in that respect. And I know a large number of corporates who are actually saying they're not going to allow you to use OpenAI based or ChatGPT based code generation in their repos yet. I mean, that may change, and what Microsoft's doing, particularly around using your own large language models, may make that interesting.
That, I think, will probably deal with the issue. And also, I would say to all those people as well, you better check where your coders have been browsing then, because I imagine there's been a lot of copying and pasting from Stack Overflow has happened too.
Yeah, definitely. That's used a lot.
I mean, not that I would ever do that, but I do know of many coders who will, search the internet using, a search engine to find an example of the code that they want and copy and paste it in, and that does happen. And really and truly, if you think about it, at the end of the day, it's not that too far off from what's happening with these so-called AI tools. But that's been an issue pretty much since Copilot first appeared in GitHub.
Yeah, indeed.
I
know GitHub Copilot has generated stuff when I've asked it, which happens to have my own comments in it, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, it's like when I googled something the other day. I was looking for the Korg solutions for something, and I found my own solution.
Yes, I understand. Yeah.
But it's my words, but not. Well, in the Bing chat, it does give you a credit, but just only the little number by it, doesn't it? It doesn't say this is from the website. You've got to kind of, you don't get taken to the website. That's the one thing I don't know how much in general all this is reducing traffic from websites. So, like I said, the Korg example, in the past, if you search for it on Google, you'll see a snippet, and then you click on that, and it takes you to my site. But in the Bing chat, it will give you the solution and just a link if you click on it. And I don't know how many people would then click on that link. Probably not that many. So you're putting that content out there, and like Gary's puts code out there, and it's being used, but you're not necessarily getting the credit for it, either by clicks or for however you monetize your content.
So, I mean, that for me was the main, the big thing at Build was just AI. So much AI stuff, which, I mean, I guess because when I went to some in-person builds, it was all about HoloLens or MR or .NET stuff. This time it seemed to be absolutely dominated by AI. So you can see where Microsoft really wants us to go. My concern with Microsoft is I hope they don't get bored of it and move on in a couple of years.
Yeah, and we do see that with Microsoft. It was like in .NET, wasn't it? We talked about in the past. .NET got stuck on everything. .NET's Windows Server, .NET, and everything. It was just the thing, wasn't it? And I think AI is the thing now with the chat buttons and all this kind of things. Copilot.
I mean, you got to realise how much money they've invested in OpenAI. They want a return on that, so it makes sense that they're promoting it in their biggest promotional vehicle they have for the developer and wider community, because Build has become an event which gets a lot of coverage in the press these days. I saw articles about Build's AI stuff actually appearing on the BBC News. So it's channels. So I think there's definitely a lot of promotional work going on.
I mean, I think AI, because it was so AI focused, there's just so much AI in the media at the moment. It's just it's one of the ultimate clickbaity things to write a story about AI, and people will click on it. Although maybe that's starting to slacken off a bit now. I hope so.
But you can't get past so see on scrolling on Twitter to see some expert saying how AI is going to destroy the world, or AI is going to save the world. It's one of the two. To
be fair, true AI could cause all kinds of problems, but they shouldn't conflate being able to type into Bing some human language and getting some summaries back with actual intelligence, because it's not. It really isn't doing that. So I do get a bit concerned about some of the more hysterical stories you read. It's like you're not understanding what this actually is. It isn't intelligence. They keep saying AI. It's not AI. It's not thinking. It's just spitting stuff back at you. I think it might destroy the world if people running nuclear reactors decide to start copying and pasting content out of GPT, then that could end the world. But in terms of the machines rising up, I can't see that happening.
Well,
not yet.
We'll hold you to that, Richard.
Yep, I didn't say yet.
Yeah, although we won't have any access to any of this history, will we, when the machines have taken over and wiped all our content?
That's true. That's true. 901 shows gone, Ian, just gone.
Yeah. There was a couple of Windows announcements.
There was, yes.
Yeah.
This is my moment.
Yes, go ahead.
Moment 3, it's here. Well,
yes.
If you go to, I think you've got to go to Windows Update and ask for it, but it's here, isn't it? This is the new release of Windows 11, Moment 3, they're calling it, which is it's not huge, and obviously if you've been on the inside of Program, you've seen these things already, but it's all nice to have. It's you've got the storage stuff on OneDrive. You've got the VPN appearing now. You've got some more security into integration. You've got what else? You've got improvements around audio, and they also announced things that are coming. Like I think RAR is coming, isn't it? That zip,
yes.
The compression format's coming. So
GZ.
A lot of kind of quality of life improvements around it, because obviously it's not a massive update, but it'll be good. I think it looks like a nice update. It's been around the insiders for a while. I think it's disappointing that there's not more. That's a shame, but I think most have been quite clear how they're planning to distribute stuff. So I think if you turn things on, if you opt in or choose to download this now, you'll get the new toys in Windows 11, which is good.
Well, what they've done, they've split them, haven't they? So you've got the Moment 3 update, which you said, is available now, which has got the VPN icons and sound settings. The 7-zip RAR support is actually coming to 23 H2, isn't it, later in the year? So they're actually, this Moment 3 that we're talking about isn't a build as such as it is, just a small update, whereas the 23H2 is going to be a full 4 gig image download, and that's what the insiders are on the dev channel are getting now. I think one of the other things that's going to please you as well, or please me anyway, because I use the removal of the news feed from widgets, so you can just have pure widgets, which I think is finally what we've been asking for.
I would say removal of the widgets full stop would be good.
Yeah, well, no, I can't say I use them. I've used them occasionally, but the newsfeed I don't use. So I'm quite happy to see that go and just have the widgets. Although I think most of the activation of widgets is by people accidentally hovering over the icon, isn't it? I think that's probably more than anything else. Right. But yeah, so we do know that the 23H2 is coming. So there's ungrouping items in the taskbar as well, which I know is a common thing people ask for. That's coming as well. So that's all in 23H2, which we'll get later in the year. What they still haven't said particularly about is what happens after that, and what's the canary channel for still. We don't really know, because all this stuff that we're talking about now with taskbar grouping and 7-zip and all that thing, that'll be in the dev channel, whereas the canary channel, I think while I was away, we had 2 builds. Prior to the last week, we've not had a build for a couple of weeks, have we? So we had 2 builds last week, and it was just all ARM fixes, wasn't there? There was no feature.
Yeah, I mean there was endpoint stuff for ARM. I think was the latest one that came in. I think 25375, but nothing particularly exciting. So that's good. It's working on ARM. As I said, I run an ARM PC here, and it's good to see things coming down. But it's
Canary's not got a lot of it.
Canary's not got a lot of interesting stuff, and most of the interesting stuff appears to be going into the dev chat channel at the moment. So it's a bit confusing, really.
Could it be for the next version of Windows 12? But there's no sign of that at the moment. Is there? They're talking about the next Windows 11 update. But we did have I was trying to think of the timeline when we did get the teasers for Windows 11. Sort of, it was in May. Was it not last year? May year before. So we were about ready for that. But the dev channel did get a build last week. We hadn't had one of them for a few weeks either, and that has the new cloud backup feature.
The dev drive.
Come back to dev drive. I'll ask Gary about dev drive, but there's actually a backup thing now where there's an actual Windows backup that you can. Launch.
Yeah.
And then when you build a new machine, you've got the option of restoring that backup. Just like you do with your phone, an Android phone, or I think an iOS, probably the same. You can, just choose from your last backup. I did give it a try and recorded a video of it. It didn't necessarily map things exactly 100%, but I wonder if that's because the 2 machines that I was playing with were virtual machines that haven't been activated, and I know when you're not activated, you lose some of the personalization settings. But
yeah, I mean, I guess just to think how this is different to what's gone on before, because I mean, obviously, it shoves stuff in OneDrive, which you should be doing, one should be doing anyway. I guess apps might be the thing that
it's apps. It brings down, it installs your apps. I noticed all the apps that I had installed on the one VM were installed on the other one. So Spotify, Instagram, bits and pieces that I'd installed to test stuff that had copied over. So yeah, it backs up your folders through OneDrive anyway, apps, settings, including your backdrop and that kind of thing, and supposedly where your apps are pinned as well. So when you get your machine, it looks familiar. The dev drive thing is something.
It's almost like it's restoring your desktop and things from what you had before.
Just like Windows 8.
I'm pretty sure we used to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So Gary, what's the dev drive?
Yeah, dev drives basically it's a way of creating a separate partition for development. So if you're a developer and you use Visual Studio, you can create yourself a separate partition for all your devy type things like cloning your repositories, etc. And it uses a different file system, one which I don't think has been used in Windows before, called refs, REFSS. And I can't remember what it actually stands for, but it's supposed to be really quick.
Resilient file system.
Resilient file system. There you go. And basically, it's supposed to be very quick and very resilient, very reliable, which is what the sort of thing you want for a sort of a service where you're storing sensitive stuff for code, and you want to be able to check things in and out very quickly and move stuff. I mean, development on Windows is not the fastest thing in the world at times. Visual Studio can be slowed down by a lot of stuff. So, and this capability has always been an issue in terms of the NTFC is not the best file system for only repos, although I'm sure some people will argue about that. So I'm saying repos, and as though everybody on the podcast would actually know what that means. But just for people out there who don't, a repo is basically where you store your code when you're working on it, a repository. And the way you work is you check in and check out things to your repository, and you can clone from repositories to start new versions of it and things like that, and that's very disk intensive, and the idea behind Dev Drive is to speed that up, and it does seem to work. I mean, people I know have been trying it, so it's definitely improved their productivity. So yeah, but it's very much about devs, although I can see some other options for it, possibly around media.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It sounds like a good place to store media, especially high 4K files or 8K files, or even if you're doing some video editing. Because of when as you know, Gary, from when you do your HD video editing, sometimes those files can be really big, and and some of the applications do shadow copies and things like that to help improve performance. But yeah, that might help with that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. It's a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just thinking what else. There was the backup. There was some improvements for voice access and some more narration options and a couple of start menu fixes and things like that. So I think it was like 2 weeks where we didn't have any builds, and now we had 3 last weeks, which is typical while I was away. But actually, my little Surface Go did pick up all the updates as well, so I had those. But yeah, so I did record a video about the backup just to give that a try. But I think I'm going to have a go with with one of those dev drives and see what it's like for media. That's my next job. I keep filling my storage up with. I think all these virtual versions of Windows which I've got on my Surface laptop now. I've got about 10 different versions, so I think I'm going to have to do a bit of culling of my my VHDXs because I've got loads of those. So there are some new features and new bits and pieces of Windows, but it's not a huge amount on there, is it? But at least there's something. In terms of other tech news, I was kind of a bit out of it last week. But Richard, you were at a conference. What was your conference about?
Oh yes, well, while Build was happening and Red Hat was doing their summit, I was at the Pacona Live. Basically, it's it was really about open source databases like MySQL or Postgres. It was very interesting, although it was very quiet, but it's very interesting. And Pacona do good work. So if you're looking to run a database, I'd suggest having a look at their tools.
Yeah, so I suppose it's hard work, isn't it, competing with those other 2 dev events at the same time, or 2 big events?
I think so, yeah. I mean, obviously, one did have half an eye on what was happening with Build at the same time, although Build was very, very heavily AI based, and or the word AI kept being kept being rolled out over and over again. And one thing was that I found interesting was talking to DBAs and things was the case of, well, no DBA in their right mind's going to ever let AI as is currently understood anywhere near their databases, because you just don't understand what you can't be sure what the output's going to be. We'll automate and use a rules engine perhaps, but actually building a query using AI is perhaps not the safest approach.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, you just don't know what's exactly going to happen. So, yeah, so that I think there's another. Is it Apple's event next week? Is it Apple's?
Yeah. Event? Do you reckon Apple will announce their mixed reality headset?
I don't know. I wondered. There's been rumours, hasn't there, for the last few years. I don't know whether that door is sort of open and closed now, or whether they really can, because Apple do it, that it becomes mainstream. I don't know.
It's a good question, because Google have tried and Microsoft have tried, and I think we can safely say they're backing away quietly from the whole MR thing now.
Although I haven't said that, avatars have reared their ugly head in Teams, haven't they, recently?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so they're kind of using some of that technology in Teams now. But yeah, and I think Meta have they had a lot of cuts from the areas they work in with the with their stuff as well.
I think the Quest Pro hasn't been a roaring success, although I do hear that the Quest 3 is on the way, so that could be interesting. But we'll see what if Apple does release a device, because I do wonder if the time for MR has passed, unless Apple are going to come up with a way of making it very usable and practical. But we'll see, I guess, because it's always been very expensive. And then I guess an average Apple user probably isn't quite as alarmed about cost as maybe a Microsoft user is.
Yeah, maybe. What other things do they normally talk about their platform? Do they normally announce devices at these things? They don't always do they?
No, I don't think we'll see the iPhone announcement in this event. But I would presume we'll maybe see some new operating systems, some stuff. I would think. I can't think. Is it iOS 17 is coming down the pipe? I think. I'm just off the top of my head, I'm afraid. So I would think we'll see some announcements around iOS, maybe some refreshes around some of the Mac hardware, perhaps. iPad hardware perhaps might get a refresh, possibly. I think they'd have the iPhone being in its own event, because it's such an important product for Apple. I can't imagine they'll shoehorn it into an event for other things. But I think my gut instinct tells you that if they don't do their mixed reality headset, then they're probably not going to do it. It's probably being cancelled, but they're so secretive, it's hard to know.
Yeah, for Apple to do it, it would have to be very consumer, very easy out the box. Well, PlayStation VR is doing okay, isn't it? But it is quite niche. But it'd have to be really, it'd have to be really consumer friendly, and whether there's the market for it, I'm not sure.
Exactly, and also have a real pressing use case. Here's what makes this a very important device. Because I mean, don't forget, Apple do have history with failed product launches. They do occasionally launch a thing and then back away and pretend it never happened. That does happen. So it's possible that they might launch a thing and then decide it's not right, because I guess it's because there's never really been a killer app for mixed reality, really. I would have thought the pandemic would have been the thing where all these headsets took off, but they didn't. And now we're, well, hopefully coming out of it. Although obviously your mileage may vary on that. I think the moment for mixed reality has passed. I'm not sure what Apple would do if it's a traditional headset. What I find more interesting is the stuff Gary's been talking about, which dispenses with the traditional visor completely.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I've been talking about that for years, and it's not come to pass yet. But there's some interesting patents out there, so hopefully it will at some point.
Yeah, if anything, you just think they'd do something with the iPhone itself, wouldn't you, rather than a separate device? It just seems a bit too non-mainstream for Apple to pick up.
Yeah.
I mean, I always thought the killer application could be some kind of small headset that you could put on while you work at your desk, and it would give you the full multi-monitor experience, like I tried to do with the HoloLens, where I had my email there and this there, and same with the mixed reality headset. You had that kind of multi-screen thing, but it was never quite good enough to use to make it simple, because if you have the closed headset, you had the great definition and you had multiple screens, but you couldn't see your keyboard. And if you had the open headset, the screens were never quite good enough for it to make it work. So I think if someone could come out with a small headset that would actually give you that full wraparound multi-monitor experience, that may be onto something, but I just can't.
Yes, I mean, I think that so you need eye tracking, so it can do the thing where it renders closely the thing you're looking at. You'd need hand and finger tracking as well, probably as good if not better than HoloLens. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Apple to make the hardware work. It's just I can't think of the killer app. Yeah. But perhaps it's coming.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And I guess we've got. Does that mean that we've also got Google's event coming up soon as well?
Usually around about the same time, aren't they?
Yeah, Google I/O. Yeah.
Didn't we have a Google event recently?
We did. I don't know. I think that was more hardware, wasn't it? But what are we on Android 14 now? I lose count. I preferred it when they were named after things like donuts and eclair.
I think Google I/O has happened already. Happened in May. Yeah, it happened earlier this month. But again, what I saw there was just nothing very exciting. I guess it's because I'm a gadget man. I like toys and gadgets and things, and it just, I don't know, it just seemed that perhaps I'm getting a bit jaded with tech, but there wasn't anything that really excited me there. I think the fact that you're saying, has it happened yet? It's like, yeah, it happened, but
that's
no one really cares.
Yeah. I mean, I even looked at the Pixel. The Pixel Fold, I think it is, and just they don't excite me enough. And I looked at like I said, the battery of my Galaxy Note is going now, so I looked on Samsung site at the Galaxy Fold. It's just so expensive. And I think, but then you look at the sort of the S23, which is a lot cheaper. And it probably does what you need it to do, but it's just so boring as well. It's just the standard slab phone. So there's kind of you've either got the really expensive foldables or they're just the straightforward, boring standard phones. And there's with that excitement has gone out the phone market a bit. I thought with the foldables we might get a bit more, but I don't think there's a that's stabilized as well pretty much now.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm still very disappointed that we don't seem to. I'm not sure we're going to ever see a Surface Duo.
No, I don't
think
it's
a real shame, because I mean, in the foldable phones market, I actually really like the Duo and Duo 2's hinged design. That really appealed to me. Whereas the fold screens, I've seen a few in the wild now, and I just think I just prefer the Surface Duo approach of having two distinctly separate screens.
Yeah, I mean, I took this on holiday. I used it all the time. I used it for Google Maps. The battery life's good. I was navigating around using it, put it to single screen mode, whatever. It's great. It's just the software isn't as good as Samsung's own software, and that's Microsoft's fault. And you think that would be the one thing they could get right, but they definitely haven't. And but I just don't feel the urge to go and shell out for one of the Samsung foldables. They're just too expensive. The Flip is not too bad, but the Fold itself is expensive, and I'm not sure about the Google ones. I kind of miss the days when we had the Nexus range, which was like brought you sort of cutting edge features for Android at an affordable price, but that's gone as well. I think Nexus 4 was that my favourite one, the 4P or something like that. But I did like those Nexus phones. In fact, I remember at CES, people getting them delivered. Was it the original Nexus? Was delivered to people's hotel rooms because it was such a a big thing at that time when they launched Nexus.
Yep, those are the days. Whereas now we're going, sort of AI.
yeah, maybe.
I'm sure that there'll be a big thing out soon. Maybe it'll be a centre for media.
You can keep holding out for that, Richard. I think you've been.
I do. You know what? I really do, because the reason I'm unexcited is because I like the consumer stuff, and right now, even after this year's event, I can't see anything that worked as well as Microsoft Media did for a home user. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I think really for me, the Sky box now has become that device, because that's all the TV, and it's got apps on there that bring you the streaming services. It's exactly, apart from the music side and your own content, obviously, it's forcing you down paid content routes, but that box does do pretty much what we wanted. And it was kind of one of the things that stopped Media Centre from ever being successful in the UK. I think was the lack of Sky support as well, wasn't it? So yeah. It's kind of ironic, really. But Sky have got that box. I guess I mean, if you're on Virgin, you probably can get the same experience, but I haven't got that.
But I guess the problem is one thing I used to enjoy doing was ripping in my DVDs and Blu-rays and things, which is a shame, because I can remember when we were looking at home serving and getting very excited about home server. I think it might have been Ed Bott said that, well, obviously, we'll all be doing streaming, and he made that prediction, I think, crikey, a long time ago now, and he's been proven correct. But I think the streaming experience is now becoming quite unpleasant, because before you had like one or two providers, now you've got loads of providers, and worse than that, the show that you might want to stream may suddenly vanish, and that's happening more and more. I mean, I saw Disney Plus. They pulled Willow, I think, didn't they? Willow was a show they developed themselves. It spent 6 months on the service or so, and however you feel about it, because they didn't get the best of reviews, it's still being pulled after six months. I think that's crazy, because you've invested all that money in this show, and it's now going. Whereas, of course, if you're able to buy it, I don't think you can buy it.
No, I don't think you can.
Physical media, can you? If you had physical media, then it's yours forever. So I've begun to go back to buying things, particularly TV shows, as physical media, because I just don't trust they're going to be around, particularly ones that I might rewatch.
Yeah, I was going to finish watching Westworld, the last series of Westworld, and I think I never got round to it. It's one of those things, and then I thought, I've got a bit of time. I finished some of the other stuff. I'll watch it, and then I went onto Sky, and it's gone.
Yeah.
And the massive, insane budget that they spent on that series, and it's been pulled from. I think it's also been pulled from the US services as well. But Willow's a brilliant example. Disney own it, so it's not like they're renting or they're licensing that content. It's their content. They made it. They've just literally released it, and it's gone. And I know it must be expensive for storage space, but that seems crazy when you've developed a show. And
I mean, I presume there must be some kind of tax thing happening. I don't know.
I mean, there's the whole residual stuff. There may be that they had a certain amount of time when they're from the first payment, and then they have to stop paying.
I believe that's what it's to do with Westworld. It's the residual costs. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, but the point I'm making is that we've moved on from the world of Media Centre, where you'd have things stored on your home server, whatever, or stored like you're now going to, the dream was you'd stream it all from forever. But those streams can be turned off very suddenly. Yeah. And I think the Willow example is perhaps the most extreme and the most recent, to say, you know what, the stuff you want to watch could suddenly vanish.
Yeah, I've got my copies of Miami Vice on the shelf up there, are going nowhere, because I've ripped all those onto, and not only are they on the shelf, they're on my portable drive as well. So no one's going to take my Miami Vice from me.
You have good taste, sir. Very good taste.
But otherwise you're at the mercy of a TV executive committee in a meeting.
So can we expect a recreation of the Miami Vice theme on your various electronic keyboards and devices?
I've never done the Miami Vice theme. I have done Crockett's theme many of time, because that's quite an easy one to recreate. That was
Jan Hammer, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, yeah. And in fact, I've got some of my Jan Hammer CDs up there as well. So, I was a big Miami Vice fan in the day, and
in that case, I'll put it for you the theme tune, because you've still not done the outrun at magical sound show. Which there we go. It's a very dusty Testarossa.
Yeah, that's the Testarossa. It is a bit dusty. It's up on the top shelf up there, but that is the one from the show. Although it's the red, obviously, but not the white one. But yeah, I was a big Miami Vice fan. I used to have the sleeves rolled up on my jacket.
A pastel jacket.
Yeah, but Yeah, but I can watch those anytime I want now, and but if they're on a streaming service, I could pay X pounds a month to watch it, and then it could be pulled. I think the other problem with the streaming ones is just the scattergun approach now, isn't it? That they're on. You sit down in the evening, and I think I had this a couple of nights ago. I was sat with my wife. I thought, oh, let's find a new series to watch. There's about you can put it on Paramount Plus, it's on Amazon, it's on Disney, is it on Netflix, is it on Sky, is it on iPlayer? It could be on any of those, and so you might be missing some really good content. It's just because you're bombarded with just so much content that to find the good stuff is quite difficult. But so I think sometimes you get there's way too much now of mediocre content, isn't there? That you got finding the gems of stuff. You get the high profile stuff like Succession or Game of Thrones, but there's also some other good stuff can be tucked away that you might never get to see because you're just inundated with other rubbish.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, and especially when you and like you said, it's the control. It's a bit like with music though, isn't it? We rely on streaming now, and I've got rid of a lot of my CDs, but I did make a point to keep some of the more esoteric CDs that I've got and any ones that adds any sentimental value, because not all the CDs that I have are available on streaming, and even high profile ones. For example, say Genesis, their last album, and Calling All Stations, which didn't do that well. Only 3 tracks are on Spotify. I like it. I happen to like it. So, but it just seems like they don't. So they only put a few tracks on it. But that could change at any time, couldn't it? They could different content companies could say, "Oh, we don't like that album anymore. It's not worth hosting that. Let's get rid of that." And you could lose access to some music stuff as well. So. Although I still have got all my music collect CDs backed up in OneDrive, they're still there. They're still there from when I used to rip them from a Zoom player.
I found my Windows Home Server the other day.
Hey!
So I must see what content I've got on.
Yeah, good luck getting it up and running. Although there's probably you won't get the updates for you because those update servers don't work anymore.
No longer. No. So was it Windows Server 2003? I think is it under the hood?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest problem I've got. So the biggest problem I've got is remembering what the password was.
Well, Windows 11, I think, isn't one of the things in Moment 3 is going to show you your Wi-Fi passwords now if you want. Was that one of the things?
Yep.
Oh, yep. Yeah. So yes.
Yep. So that's again, I would say nothing earth-shaking. Just all nice, useful quality of life improvements.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think we have these phases in tech, don't we? And
is Moment 3 also? So just thinking about other things I saw. Is Moment 3 the one that's getting the close app from the taskbar, or is that going to be in?
That's 23H2, I think.
23H2. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
That for me is a very exciting thing because obviously you have to open up Task Manager and kill things manually, and Task Manager itself sometimes freezes too now. I think having a Mac like kill this app from the taskbar actually really appeals to me.
I thought as a developer, Gary, is that something you're a bit twitchy about having that option?
A little bit.
But I
can kind of see the benefit for consumers. So yeah, we'll work around it.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is you get a lot of clients saying, "Oh, you've got to stop anybody ever exiting this program for X reasons." Especially in line of business, that happens a lot. Where someone say like, "You can't let the user exit this screen if they haven't made something active or they haven't done this, or because the business can't work if they haven't done that. So you've got to stop them doing it." And of course, there's always ways of exiting. There's always ways of exiting.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've done that with you. Man, it must have this mandatory field, so somebody puts a dot in it. Yeah, though he must have an algorithm to work out that.
Yeah, the other thing which happens, of course, as well as if you do allow people to block exiting of pop-ups, then spammers and nefarious people make use of it, like the the ability to block browser exit, which was on the Chromium engine up until recently. So you used to be able to pop up a message when you try to move tabs or try to close Chrome down or Chromium in terms of Edge, and developers could actually customize that message. But then I think we've all come across those sites where it says you've got a virus.
Yeah.
Stay the screen. And basically what happened then was that they said, oh, okay, that's a real problem. So yes, you can still make the message pop up, but you can. It's a fixed message which Chromium puts up now. Which says unrun. You've got outstanding changes or something similar, and you've got to save. But yeah, leave without saving them. But yeah, it's always a way. Anything which is there as a convenience feature for users or for developers usually will get exploited by somebody. So I guess it's better to veer towards the consumer.
Yeah, it reminds me of those IE3 days, is it, where you could close one window and another one could pop up instead. I think there was an on-close thing, wasn't there, in whatever script it was.
Yeah.
So,
IE3, wash your mouth out with soap water.
You could never close it. Oh, those were the days. But maybe we should go back. IE3 powered by ChatGTP.
I just want my media center back.
Well, I'm sorry, Richard. I think you're going to have a whole long wait for this.
A ChatGPT powered media center would actually be quite good. Imagine the discovery potential.
Yeah. Yes, actually, that's what I need. That's the answer, isn't it? Well, okay. Well, Gary, you get the source code and you can make it happen.
Yes. It's all up to you now, Gary. Make media center great again.
Oh, you want me to put that the show title? Is that the show title for this?
No. Today's show is brought to you by letters A and I.
Yeah.
This has got to be the Media Center Copilot, hasn't it?
Media Center Copilot. Now you're talking.
There we go. Someone from Microsoft, make it so.
It'd be Copilot for Media Center 365. There you go.
Yeah. So I think that's just about everything we've got for this week. So I'm glad to be back and picking up the news again. So Gary, where can we find you? On the road, by the sound of it.
Well, on the road at the moment, but you can find me on Twitter at Gary WMA.
Yeah, and Richard, you're back in the country.
I'm back in the country. You'll find me on Mastodon and also now Blue Sky. Just search for Richard Speed.
Oh, you managed to get an invite.
I've been invited. Yeah, it's
more than I have.
It's a curious place. It's an place.
These things keep popping up, and I usually, as soon as I can sign up to them, and then I just instantly forget about them and just stay on Twitter, which is it's sad, but it's just what sticks, isn't it?
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's again much like it's kind of almost like we talked before about all the various streaming services you now have to have. It's the same thing with social media. Whereas there was Twitter, now of course there's all kinds of different flavors out there, and trying to find the people you want to follow or keep up to date with. They tend to be in different places now, so you end up having almost 3 feeds. If only there was a system that could have your social media collated in one place. What would that look like?
Yeah, that would, with all media as well. Social media center, Copilot.
Social media center. Now you're talking exactly. Yeah. Who needs Blue Sky and Twitter and Mastodon? You got the social media center. Happy days.
Social media center, Copilot 365.
Powered by AI.
yeah. Sign up now. Right, well, I think that's everything we've got time for this week. So we'll be back same time, same place next week. You can get me on Twitter at ISDixon. You can go on digislab.com and all the social links are on there. So thanks, Richard. Thanks, Gary. And we'll see you next week.
Cheerio.